Hey, welcome back to another video in this Linux Crash Course series. In this video, we're going to talk about some popular shells, and we're going to introduce some of the basics of getting around in the shell and the help system a little bit. So let's get to it. And just as a quick reminder, I have this course in GitHub. It's under Linux-Crash-Course, and we are working on this second chapter, which is getting started with the Linux terminal. All right, and one of the first things it talks about is that there's actually different kinds of shells. We are going to be using Ubuntu, and the default shell for the account that I'm using is the Bash shell. And so this is the shell that we're going to be using, but just be aware that there's other types of shells. Most of them try to stay compliant with each other. So as long as you're not doing anything kind of edgy or specific for one type of shell, you should be okay. And then it talks about some command structures, and we're going to go through a lot of this stuff just live. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to my terminal. I have that right here. And one of the first things I want to do is I just want to run an echo $0 command. Don't worry about necessarily understanding all these commands at this point. The purpose of this lesson isn't to go into different commands. It's just to kind of get used to what things look like when you're running commands. When I want to run something, I type it in and then I hit the enter command. Now what this specific command is going to do is it's going to return the type of shell that I'm running. So I just wanted to show that I'm indeed running the bash shell, and so you can see that there. Part of the Linux system, there's a ton of commands. And we'll learn a lot of commands as we make more and more progress, but I just want to show a few. So for example, there's a date command. And date does what you think it does. It prints out the current date and time that's on this Ubuntu box. Now this Ubuntu box is deployed to the cloud. If I recall, I think it's in the US East 1 zone. So it's kind of in the East Coast someplace. That's the time that is running now on this particular Ubuntu instance. There's other commands like I want to figure out like who's all logged into the system. Now, there should only be one person logged in. It should be just me. My name is Ubuntu, and you can see that even here on my prompt. So my prompt has, this particular format. It says Ubuntu, and it's and that's the name of my computer. And then there's a colon, a little tilde, and a $sign. This prompt, how this looks, that's actually configurable, but it tells you some specific information. Like I said, that's the user, that's the computer name, so I know kind of where I'm at. When I type the who command, if there were other people logged in, you would see multiple lines here. And then there's another command, I can type who am I, and that tells me, again, just my username, but I can see that here, so I don't necessarily have to type that command. There's a command called echo. Now echo is whatever comes next, it will rewrite it back out onto the terminal window. I can write, this is a test, and when I hit enter, it's going to echo this is a test back out. You can also do things like this. I'm going to put a lot of spaces in here. I want you to see something. This is a test, and if I hit enter, you see all the spaces are gone. It just took them away. So it treats this almost as the same thing as this. Now, if I want those spaces, if the spaces are important, then I just need to include everything in quotes. So I can kind of almost get back to this same thing, put it all in quotes, and then it'll print it out with quotes. So it's just the echo command. And the reason I just entered a bunch of commands, I wanted to just get some history into our terminal window so that I can now show you how to navigate this thing a little bit easier. So on my keyboard, if I hit the up arrow, what it's going to do is it's going to go through a history of commands. So Linux keeps track of this history of commands. So when I hit up, it's going to show me what the last command I typed was. And so I could hit enter again if I wanted to. And if I keep hitting the up arrow, it's going to keep going backwards in time. And it's going to show me all the different commands kind of that I ran. So I'm just going to keep going back up, and you can see all the way to the very top. There's the echo $0. If I hit the down arrow, I can scroll back down through that list of commands. So up and down allows you kind of navigate through past history. If I wanted to type and I wanted to see the whole history, I could type in the history command. And then what I'm going to see is here's a history of all the different commands that have been run on here. So from the very beginning, so far I've run about 20 commands on this instance. You can see that history was the last command that I ran. You want to be able to execute old commands by using this number. So for example, who am I is number 11. So I can type exclamation mark 11, and that's going to tell it to run that command. So go look at your history, whatever's on command number 11, run that. And if I hit enter, you can see it ran who am I, and then it put Ubuntu. Now if I do my history again, you can see who am I was just run, and now there's a new history. So I just typed this in. This is the command I just ran, and this is the one I ran by using the exclamation mark 11. Now 11 was the old command, and you can see that it's keeping track of them all. If I wanted to just repeat the last command, I can say exclamation exclamation, and that'll repeat just the last command, which is going to be history in this case. So I ran it and I get the history. So let's say that, let's see, echo, here's something new. That's the last command. If I want to run that again, I put exclamation exclamation, I hit enter, and it'll run that something new. And you can see it actually shows you the command it ran, and then it executes the command. Sometimes that I have a line that's really long, and I'm just going to type an echo statement in, and we'll just type a little sentence here. Backup and recovery. Just copying some stuff here. Final projects. All right, so let's say that's my line. And my cursor's at the very end. Now, I can use the left arrow key to move that cursor to the left. I can use the right arrow key to move it to the right. Now, sometimes if I made a mistake and I mistyped like echo, I have to go, I can hold it down, I can get there, and then I can make a change. So maybe it's echo 2. And then I realize, oh, I misspelled something on projects. I can hold the arrow key down and get back to projects. But there's a faster way to kind of make these changes. If I want to get all the way to the beginning of this line, I can hold the control key and then type A. So A is the beginning of the alphabet. So A will bring me all the way back over here. So control A will bring my cursor all the way to the beginning of the line. To get to the end of the line, I wish it was control Z, but that's not what it is. But it's control E. Control E for end. E is for end. And so here we are. If I type control E, it'll bump the cursor all the way to the end. So that's a quick way between control A, get to the beginning, control E to the end. I can move back and forth pretty quickly here. There's a couple of other shortcut commands, and I don't really use a lot of these other ones, but control A and control E are certainly useful. Depending upon your workflow, these others might be useful too. But there is a control W, and what control W does is it deletes the word before the cursor. So the word before the cursor is and. If I type control W, it's going to remove the word and. So I'm going to type control W, and you can see it remove the and. It left the extra space, so I have to remove the space. We'll do it again to remove the word backup. I can get the extra space. So that's one way to kind of delete parts of the thing. I'm going to put the cursor back here in the middle. There's another shortcut for, it's called control U, and that's going to clear everything before the cursor. So control U, and what you're going to see is echo recovery will all disappear. That just removed everything before the cursor. Now if I want to have everything after the cursor cleared, I can type control K, and that'll delete everything after the cursor. Real quick, those shortcuts are, so I can control A to get to the beginning of the line, control E to get to the end. I can do a control W to delete the word that was right before the cursor. I can do control U to delete everything to the left of the cursor, control K to delete everything to the right of the cursor. So that's kind of our moving around on our line, so you can quickly go from one end to the other end. If you have a window and you want to clear everything out, there is a clear command, and that just kind of deletes everything and it brings you back to the top of your window. That's helpful, especially if you just have a lot of information and you just want to clear everything out. You can just make it so it's easier to see. Now if I up arrow, I still get all the old commands, but I can't go back and see what the old screen used to look like. What I want to talk about next is just a general purpose help menu or a manual for Linux. And manual itself is going to start anything I type with MAN. MAN means manual. And then what I would do is I would type in the command that I want to look up in the manual next. For example, that echo command, we ran that earlier. So I type man for manual, and then I type echo, and then now it's going to give me the manual, all the information about the echo command. A lot of commands have options, and so you can see a -N, a -E. You can see all these different options for the command. For the commands that I'm going to show you in future videos, I may not cover every single option. If you're interested, I encourage you to use the manual and go and look it up. Once I'm in here, I can scroll up and down this manual. I've hit the bottom already. I can scroll back up and look at it. And when I'm all done, you can see here it says press Q to exit. So I'm going to just type Q, and now I'm out of the manual. The other way to get help, like on commands, a lot of commands also have a --help option. And so I'm going to type that and hit enter. And ironically, Echo wants to just echo what you put to the back to the window. So ironically, Echo doesn't really work with --help. Let's see if it has a -H. Nope. So it just wants to echo that. But instead of using the echo, let's do, we can do manual of date. We did date earlier. And so you can see the date command with its different options. You can scroll up and down. Has a lot of different formatting for how you want the date formatted. I can type Q to exit, but then let's see if it has a help. A lot of commands have this help in here. So date does have a help, and it's just going to spit it all back out. So manual kind of brings you to this other environment, and you can scroll up and down, but when you hit Q, all that information's gone. But here, when I hit --help, it's kind of spit out that same information, but now it sticks around so I can kind of see it a little bit longer. So I want to type and use some of those options. I can do that there. So anyways, that's 2 quick ways to get help anytime you want. So if you see a command that you just are curious about, you want to learn more about, you can either type man and space hit that command, or you can type the command and then --help. Most of them will support that. So that's it for this episode, and we'll see you next time.